your chair here? Because we haven't heard from the Halifax Urban Ministry chair, so I just, this is an important thing, because you're looking at the council here. We're the ones today that have to do the heavy lifting politically. You have the heavy lifting to implement. This is not a small thing that's happening here, and you will be under the spotlight. You will be in the public sector. You will be watched. You will be held accountable. As a board, as an executive director, and I'm speaking for myself as well as the community, this is a high calling, it's a high demand. And when it succeeds, we celebrate. The opposite, we can't go where we've never gone before and fail. And I don't believe we will. So I want to address the board first. And to the community members and the citizens, the residents that have spoken, I hear you, I hear you. And some of your comments are accurate. I do believe that it was overstated at the beginning of what was going to happen at this place. For that, a great disservice has been done to you. It was overpromised. There were comments made that were outside the venue, probably not authorized very genuinely. You've been also done a disservice, I apologize to you, by the very organized Occupy Beach Street movement that we lived through. I think some of the things that we're hearing now are, that's what you're seeing in your mind's eye. This is not that. This is not that. But then again, with deep appreciation to the leaders who had a vision bigger than they are, bigger than we are. Thank you. Thank you for your time, the hours, your commitment, your personal name, and all the millions of dollars and the commitment from the school board, from the county, from Halifax Urban Ministries. This is quite an undertaking, quite an undertaking. I think it should also be said, I heard the word fear a lot, and I want to address that because currently it's a vacant building, and currently under, I believe, the R4 designation. Ms. Seaman, isn't it true that Section 8 housing could go up currently with no zoning, no meetings, nothing? Could be done today. Is that accurate? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so let's get a dose of reality in between hostility and fear. Today, without having any of these meetings or talking in your communities or having the ability for public discourse and for the media to cover it, Section 8 housing could go up. No landscaping, no, no commitment from the Volusia County, the City of Holly-Hill to partner, nothing. Section 8 housing. Years ago, my husband and I were therapeutic foster parents for the Children's Home Society. The children that were placed in our homes, I'll never forget the first set of brothers that we had. One was age 3 and one was age 5. 5-year-old was HIV positive. Should have happened, but it does. What I learned with that first placement, not the last one, but the first placement, when those boys, I would put those boys to bed at night. And when I got up in the morning, they didn't get out of bed. They were in the same position as we put them to bed at night. Because you know why? They were so full of fear. These boys had never been in a home where they were safe. And they knew if they got out of line, they could lose where they were at that time. I have worked with nonprofits personally outside of elected office. I've served as the opposite end of this then as a guardian ad litem with the 7th Judicial Circuit. So I went from fostering and creating shelter and trying to unite families within the system, to having to be the one to go into the home and take the kids out for their own safety and to literally create a homeless situation and get those children then placed in a foster home. This is not easy. This task and where we're going, the word fear, I'll tell you what you should fear. You should fear those that don't respect their families enough and walk away. You should respect the abuse that sometimes a system does bring upon, because I've stood in family circuit court here as a guardian ad litem, and I have demanded certain services because sometimes bureaucracies do break down. They do. Because like the gentleman from New Smyrna said, it was beautiful. There's no promise, but what we can do is the best we can do with where we are now and the possibilities we have here. This is temporary transitional housing. It is the proper utilization of resources. The word fear, especially today, don't fear a positive thing to help the most needy and vulnerable among us. Our women and children are probably the most underserved population that we have. And the teenage boy is a resident that talked about having a house full of 17-year-olds. Well, let me tell you what. As a foster parent, of course, the state, thank goodness, changed the law for aging out of the system. But when these kids age out of the system, and it used to be at age 18, they were on the streets. There were no options. And I can tell you there are very few individuals or nonprofits or organizations or churches that would take these 18-year-olds in. They are on the streets. The state has changed that. There are consequences to our actions. There are consequences to our lack of options, lack of actions. Somebody said we're winging it. We are nobody here, ladies and gentlemen, is winging it. Nobody. You may not agree with some of the way it's been done. Maybe some of it's not been done right. But guess what? We've never done this before. The county council has never partnered with the school district. And now this is a building that's vacant. This has been vacant for 10 years. And it has got to be an eyesore. So what's wrong with reusing public infrastructure that taxpayers have already paid for and serving the most underserved population and unaccompanied youth that desperately, desperately need services?